Hey, what's up, guys? Richard and Luke here, authors of Exit Without Selling. Stoked to be here together, bro. What are you up to? What's going on?
You know what? Right now, all I hear from my kids is, "Daddy, will you play with me?"
What are you playing?
Right now, it's Star Wars, which makes me just absolutely the happiest dad alive. Because we got stormtroopers who can't hit anything. We got lightsabers and Jedis. We got Boba Fett flying in with the ship. They're just bananas about Star Wars. And now what's great is that you can go through the whole catalog, right? There's just so many movies. So it's going to take a long time to get through it. So this is going to be a nice long season of playing Star Wars with them. I can't wait.
Bro, I was just thinking about this the other day. My mom bribed me when we were moving from our old house. I was 6 years old. I was devastated that we were moving away from my house because I had a best friend who lived across this thing. And my mom bribed me that she was going to buy me Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. And I was totally fine after that.
Yeah,
like,
no.
forget about my friend, my 6-year-old
need a
bestie.
friend.
I need a lightsaber.
Well, Luke Skywalker, I appreciate that. My mom claims I was named after Luke in the Bible, but I'm
You're
pretty
really
confident it
named
was
after
Luke
Luke
Skywalker.
There you go.
I don't buy that story at all.
I love it.
Well, let's jump in. Today we're going to talk about the Chief Everything Officer problem.
This problem hits so deep for me because it comes out of my own story. A lot of people using the Chief Everything Officer term, but I just want to state for the record that I submitted the trademark on it first. Okay.
Not that it matters, but if it was a competition.
But if it was a competition, I had the trademark submission first. And it's interesting, man. When I think back to my story, I remember the moment where I was literally playing Chief Everything Officer in my business. I came home. I literally avoided my wife. We'd only been married for about a year. Diverted into my office, fell down on my knees, and literally just cried out to God for help. Yeah. And I literally felt like a failure on every front in my business, which is funny because, like you, externally, everybody thought I was a success. Yeah. We had raised, we were pouring millions of dollars into Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is one of the top 10 rebound markets in the U.S. after the '08 crash. Yep. We're buying these commercial properties, renovating them, reselling them to investors. People thought I was like this golden child. Yeah. And
you were young, so you're achieving. I was young. Nobody else is doing what you're doing at your age, right?
And I was just absolutely crushed. We had just literally that day, we had one of our managers walk off of our job sites, and it was absolute chaos. I was fielding the problems from that. We had investors who were basically saying they were going to pull funding. There were some real dark rumors circulating around of like what they might do because we were deeply in the red. We had a storm come through, and it did about it was like over $300,000 in damage to one of our properties. And the insurance company was saying that they weren't going to pay for it. They did eventually.
Those dang insurance companies.
Those dang insurance companies. I mean, the pressure was intense. It felt like being in a pressure cooker, and I literally felt like I was dying. And when I go back to that day, on my knees, just crying out to God for help, it was really a pivotal turning point for me because it was the first time I had to look in the mirror and examine how I was leading. And when I really looked in the mirror, I realized that I had built the business entirely around me. And because of that, I was the single point of failure. So when problems happened in the business, people called me, investors called me. I was the only one who had the multidisciplinary knowledge of all the different types of projects and offers and things we had out in the market. I was the vision caster. And that structure was built intentionally. It was built intentionally. Dude, I was literally thinking about this. I don't know why. I was thinking about this in the shower the other day. I had built the business around me because I had a deep need to be needed.
Yeah.
I had a deep need to be special. I had a deep need to be significant.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to dive deeper into this later, but I was just even reflecting on this. I was like, subconsciously, I built the business that way because I thought that was how I got my needs met.
Yep.
I thought that's how I proved that I was significant and successful. And I think this is a common pattern. It's what we call the Chief Everything Officer trap, right? Where you've built your business around your expertise, your knowledge, your ability.
Well, that's the challenge. Is it's real.
It's real.
You actually were the only one who understood everything that was going on.
Right.
You were way ahead of everyone else.
We were doing something innovative. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like you were making it up just because you had a need. It was actually real.
Mm-hmm. But I constructed the business that way out of convenience, because that was the only way I knew. I didn't know how to lead differently at that time.
Yep.
But I also think psychologically there was a driver, and there usually is a driver of why we lead that way and why we do things a certain way, because we want to feel needed. And so anyways, I got to this point, totally broken, and I realized that day I have to change how I lead. And so it led me down this path of personal development, honestly. I started reading John Maxwell. I really started devouring every piece of leadership content that I could. I attended took courses and events, listened to podcasts, all through the lens of like, I'm doing something wrong. I have to figure out what it is that I'm doing that has got me to where I am in my business. And I'm really thankful for that, because it really, what it revealed is it got me to this place where I realized that the problem was my leadership was that it was about me.
Yeah.
It was about me,
Yep.
right? And that mental shift kind of flipped a switch on in my brain where I was like, oh, I actually have to, if I want to lead differently, I have to change my identity, and I have to actually build this business for the purpose of empowering other people. And that was honestly when things started to change for me. You know the end of the story, but it took some time, but me and my partner brought that business back into the black. I ended up selling my shares to her, and she continued the business on. I moved on to my next venture, but that was only possible because I first made that identity shift.
Well, so what's interesting is that the identity shift, if I'm listening to this, I'm going, wait a minute, like you built your need to be needed, so I got to let go of this need to be needed. And that's not actually true. And what you said is that not that you let go of your need to be needed, it's that the transition was you still were doing something of significance. It just was healthy.
Yeah.
It was no longer a need to be needed so that I'm going to build something destructive because that's all I know. Isn't that how you do it? You build a business and you carry the business on your back, and if something's to be done, it's me that's going to do it, right? And instead you said, no, I can still live a life of significance and not have everything rely upon me. And that's really, I think, the power of X Without Selling is it's no longer just about, it's not about removing you from the business completely necessarily. If you want to, we can certainly get you there, but it's more about exiting without selling. And so that you have optionality. You can be involved, but you don't have to be involved. And so let's dig deeper into that need to be needed a little bit. If our poor business owners went to a psychology expert, if they went to a psychologist or to a counselor, they would probably tell them they need to remove that need to be needed. But that isn't actually what we're suggesting in the book. And that's where the dream team comes in, which is going to be next episode. But do you want to talk a little bit more about the need to be needed?
Take us in.
So what most experts say is what you need to do is rewrite your need to be needed. So if you can just get to the point where you release your need to be needed, and to be clear, there's really two core issues as a business owner. One is we need to be needed, and the other one is we need to control. And we have we have a whole truckload of evidence of why people need us and why we have to control things. So it's not invalid. It's anecdotally true.
In fact, I would go so far as to say most of the people listening to this can already think of times where they got stabbed in the back. And I didn't even talk about that part in my story. We had a partner steal money from us. So I had legitimate reasons to believe I have to stay in control, right? But that, if you let your past determine your future, you will always get what you got in the past. And I think, I don't mean to interrupt, but for a lot of business owners, that need to control is exactly what's hindering them from being able to exit without selling and build a dream team. And I love the Craig Rochelle quote, you can have control or you can have growth, but you can't have both.
That's so good. And that's where if you have an exit to vision, right? Exit without selling naturally gives you this impossible goal of exit without selling. I don't know how to do that. That's why I'm listening to you guys right now. Help me get there, right? And when you set that vision, that exit to vision that we talk about in the business, you boil 1,000 decisions of how to control everything and how to make yourself need to be needed. And you boil it down to one question, which is, does it reduce owner dependence? And if the answer is yes, you do it. And then the question is now the right time, or should we delay it to a future? There's other priorities that would take more pressure off the owner. And when you look at it from that perspective, it really is about letting go of control, because now it's not about whether you can control it, it's about whether it reduces the business's dependence upon you. So how do we do that? Well, for the need, again, the need to be needed, need to control. These are really what we call egoic anchors in the book. These are things that, because when we start our businesses, we have these ideas of how it's supposed to run based upon kind of the collective knowledge of entrepreneurs and everybody that we know who runs a business and how they do it. And we sit down with mentors who are successful and they tell them things like, watch your people, slow to hire, quick to fire. You gotta keep them under your thumb. All these concepts that were taught generationally from business owners who built a business that relies upon them, who are chief everything officer, which they never admit to, just like I wouldn't admit to it. And we go, well, okay, well, that's the way to do it. And I don't know a better way. And so we actually latch onto these things, because if we didn't have these ideas to grab onto, we would feel like we're just floating. Like we're like a ship lost at sea, just floating around, getting tossed by the waves. We'd have nothing concrete to grab onto. And if you listen to like woo-woo philosophy, they'll tell you to cut the egoic anchors. You need to be free from your ego relying upon anything. And I disagree with that. Maybe you could get there. I got a coach. If you want to hire him, costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time, it's really painful. Or I can give you an easier route. And that's this. We replace the need to be needed with meaningful work. You no longer need to be needed if you're doing good work. There's a story in the Bible, Nehemiah. And he's up on the wall, rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. And he has these critics come to him. They're like, hey, Nehemiah, come down. Let's talk about some things. And he replies to them, one of my favorite lines in the whole Bible. I'm sorry, I'm busy doing good work. I can't come down. And when you have that attitude of I'm busy doing good work, stuff that you love to do, things that are highly profitable, things that you're uniquely gifted to do, suddenly your need to be needed, I'm too busy, I can't come down to do that stuff. And we replace the need to control with true delegated authority to a dream team that's galvanized around a vision, and that's your exit to a vision. So let's dig into these 3 zones of genius that we talk about in the first chapter of the book.
That was really well said.
Thank you.
I just want to lean in there for a second, because what you just said is so profound. To replace the need to be needed with meaningful work, and to replace the need to control with delegated authority.
Yeah.
So critical. A lot of entrepreneurs listening to this, especially if you're in burnout, some of you know you're in burnout. Some of you don't even realize it because you've been in burnout for so long, you've normalized it. I was just talking to a guy the other day, that was the case. I told him, I'm like, bro, you're burned out. And he was like, I am? Like, yeah, here's all the signs I can show you of everything you just told me that you're burned out. And he was like, oh.
Did you know the most clinical, so the clinical diagnosis of depression or anxiety in business owners is actually the exact same definition as burnout?
That's interesting.
They're not depressed, they're not anxious, they're burned out.
And you want to know what's fascinating? I talk about this in the book too. They've found, psychologists are more and more finding that burnout is less due to overwork and more to do with the lack of meaningful work.
Really?
Yeah. So work without purpose is what burns you out. It's where you get to it. We're not talking about just physical tiredness. Yeah. That's a different thing. We're talking about
at the soul.
We're talking about at a soul level. Yeah. You're just like doing the minimum you can. You're surviving. You're treading water. But you're just kind of like, you're just making it. You're just tackling things as they come. You might have sporadic fits of creativity, but it's very scattered, right? Like you're unfocused. That is the sign of burnout. And so one, I want to help people self-identify that if you are in burnout, meaningful work, actually restoring purpose and intention to what you're doing is the solution. And delegating authority is the path. Right? It's the path. It's the only way.
True delegated authority, where you know that authority is actually not just passed along, but it's galvanized. It's now concrete in this dream team that understands the vision and where you're going to exit without selling.
So true.
Yeah, it's because a lot of times, like if I'm listening to this, I'm going, I've tried delegating. No. We're not delegating individual small tasks like my email. It's actually delegating the authority that comes from the vision that you have for why your business is in the marketplace, how it best serves people, what you're best in the world at, what the market would miss if you close your doors tomorrow. That vision, completely delegate it in authority to your team. So they have the authority to execute on it, even if you're not in the room.
And that's where the exit without selling process is, it's both a cycle and it's a interconnected system.
Yep.
Because there's components. I can hear people asking things like, but what about this? What about compensation? And he mentioned something about getting clear on what it is we do best. And it's an interconnected system. So stick with us because we're going to cover those. And in the book, we cover them in a very intentional sequence that builds on each other. But what I want to start with is the foundation. Nothing else in the process works without this foundation. And the foundation, right, is making the decision to change your identity as an owner from chief everything officer to actually being a dream team mentor is what we call it. Like I'm going to choose, same way I did that day on my knees, I'm going to choose to change the way I'm leading, and I'm going to empower a dream team. That's step one. You want to comment on that before I go to step two?
And I love the way you phrase it in the book, which is you sit in the seat of as a board of advisors.
That's right.
Right. Like
you're the chairman, chairwoman.
Yeah. Like so, they're coming to you with high-level strategy decisions and items that require someone from the owner's box to make a decision. Right. We look at professional football teams, other than a handful of teams who they have more involved owners. Most of them, they're not making decisions about who to draft, who to start on Sunday. That's not their call. They have a dream team. The general manager, the head coach, the offense coordinator, defense coordinator in football, right? And they're making those day-to-day decisions, but occasionally something needs to go to the owner for approval or advice. And then they step in as an owner and provide direction and clarity on where they see the team going.
100%.
And that board of advisor seat is honestly like one of the coolest places to be.
So true.
Way better than chief everything officer.
And I can I can hear people in people's head, them going like, but I'm so far away from that. Maybe you've got a couple employees, and you're like, okay, I don't have a dream team. I have a couple guys with trucks, or I have a couple technicians who do stuff. Yep. I'm so far away from being in this, ideal owner's box. And again, my passionate plea is don't give up on yourself because it's possible. We've seen this work with companies that have one employee, and it takes time to build the dream team, but it's possible. And again, the foundation, the starting point is choosing to change how you lead. That's step one. Step number two is actually clarifying your exit to vision. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. And we frame the exit to vision as truly an impossible goal. And this is something that Dr. Benjamin Hardy, who wrote the foreword in the book, puts very well in his book, The Science of Scaling. And we kind of borrow that framework loosely for the exit to vision. Exit without selling is the impossible goal. It's inherently impossible. We don't know how to do it. That's why we wrote a book. That's why we have a consulting offer so we can coach people through this and how to get there. But we can't define that for them. And so there's some pieces to it that Dr. Benjamin Hardy has done a really great job defining, which is frame, floor, and focus. And I'm not going to go super deep into those, but the idea is frame is what you're looking at, the options you have before you to get to your goal of exiting your business without selling. And the floor is what you raise. You raise that frame so it goes up to the top and it eliminates all the options that don't get you to exit without selling. And that's what I'm talking about. The floor for us is, does it reduce dependence on the owner? And if the answer is yes, we do it. Maybe not now, but we're going to do it. So that's the next decision, is when do we do it? If it's no, we don't do it.
That's right.
The floor becomes, we are going to exit without selling. And if it doesn't help us get there, the answer is no, we're not doing it. And then the third piece is focus. And that is, what are we going to focus on right now? What's the current playbook we need to install in the business to reduce dependence upon the owner? And for our exit to vision, how we get there is two pieces. One is quantifiable. The other one is qualifiable. So quantifiable, for a lot of business owners, that's actually the easy part, right? We stretch them a little bit, but we need to know where you're at right now. What's total revenue? How does that break down per unit? So per job, per customer, per subscription, whatever your model is. And then what did it take to get there? So how many people did you need to quote? How many sales calls did you need to run? How many times did the phone need to ring for you to get that much work? And then we take that and we shift it to making that number bigger. And we progressively move that number out until it feels absolutely impossible. And then we use something Dr. Benjamin Hardy calls using time as a tool. And we collapse the time frame. So let's say you're at 2 million. And I progressively walk you out and I say, do you know how to get to 3 million? Yep, I know how to get to 3 million. All we need to do is, increase our ad spend. Okay, great. How do you get to 4 million? Well, we'd have to increase our ad spend a lot. We'd probably have to do a couple other things, but do you know how to get there? Yeah, I know how to get there. How about 5 million? Yeah, 5 million, we probably can get there. Okay, how about 6 million? I have no idea how to get to 6 million. Perfect. That's the impossible goal. And then we collapse time. What if you had to hit $6 million by the end of the year? How impossible is that goal? That is absolutely impossible. Perfect. We now have an impossible revenue number. The revenue number is not what's actually important. What's important is that when you create that benchmark that you don't know how to get to, you have to find pathways to get there without you being at the center of everything. And that's why this exit to quantifiable goal is so important, because now we go, okay, at 6 million with your current cost per unit. So current, if you're a contractor, your average job is 10 grand. You would have to do this many jobs. At your current close rate or your current conversion rate, you'd have to get this many phone calls, this many bids done. And now we can actually, okay, in order to do that, in order to run 1,200 jobs, how many electricians do you need? We now know what the structure of this business looks like. And this is in the first 10 minutes of your first call with us, right? So you're getting a ton of clarity right away. But that's not what's actually most important. Business owners love that. So guys, I know you love that, guys and gals. I know you love the numbers and like, oh, give me that. Yeah, I want to know how many electricians I need. That's what they want. What actually matters, and this is proven with science, okay, is the qualifiable goals. We're going to get to 6 million so that what? What is it that we believe in ourselves? You know, like when you talked about your business, really what you're saying is, if I just build this business that I'm at the center of, that gives me so much meaning, that shows everybody how significant my life is, that I can actually do things that nobody else would even consider doing at my age, then I will hit my income goals and reach the prominence that I need to finally feel like my life matters, or something like that, right? I'm going to bring glory to God. Like I'm going to be I'm going to be a main character in the story. Whatever it is that we believe this, if we get to this place, it fulfills our life. Getting clarity on what that last piece is actually more important than the front parts. Because we'll teach them how to get there. The book teaches you the process to get there. But what you're moving toward is what keeps you in the game when it gets really hard. And you don't want to spend the extra money on the new hire. And you don't want to delegate authority. And so we hear things like, I want to see every part of the United States that I've never seen before. I want to be able to travel with my wife in an RV for 4 months without having to answer a phone call or take an email. I want to be gone for 2 weeks. Sometimes I just want to be gone for 2 weeks on vacation and not work and not have profit drop. I hear things like, I want to take, I love one of our clients, Shane, he does these mini motocross trips with his wife where they'll take off Thursday night. The motocross race is like on a Saturday, and then they fly back Sunday. And they got young kids like we do. And so that's about as much as you can get away when they're real young, you know. Grandparents watch them for a couple of days, and that's about all you get. And he's like, I want to do that. We've done it like once or twice. I want to do that like every 3 or 4 months. I want to do that a couple times a season for motocross. And that level of clarity, or like his brother Chip loves spending time in the mountain, dirt biking in the mountain, just spending time in the mountain praying. And that's his goal, is like, no, my qualifiable goal is I want to get to the point where I can own a home on the mountain and I'm always there. I don't have to go take trips there. And that's what keeps you in the game when it gets really scary and things start to shake and rattle, because you are shifting from chief everything officer to this new identity of a business owner who has exited without selling.
That's right. It's push versus pull motivation.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yep.
So the psychologists say there's basically, we're either motivated by push or pull. And the problem with push is it actually leads to really faulty decision making. And you usually almost never achieve the actual outcome
Is
you're
that
optimizing
because
from.
it's forced?
Well, it's forced and you're running from something, but you don't really know what you're running to.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of owners, they don't realize this, but they're running from something more than they are running to something, right? They're going, I don't want to burn out. I don't want to lose my health. I don't want my spouse to, be bitterly disappointed in me. I don't want my grandkids to be resentful. I don't want,
I don't want to start drinking like my dad did, or I don't want to, sometimes I don't want to do this work.
I don't want to lose my sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And all those things can be real. We feel those as business owners. But if that's what's motivating and driving you, you basically, there's only two things. There's two things that can drive you. You can make decisions from fear or vision. You'll always make decisions from one of two. It doesn't mean that you're not going to feel fear, but you have to choose, and this comes back to the exit to vision. You have to choose. That's why we start every call with our clients reviewing the exit to vision, because You have to choose intentionally, daily sometimes. I'm going to operate from vision, not from reaction and fear.
Well, and this is the point in the story for most business owners where they are reluctant to answer the call. Right? It's like that point in Rocky where he's like, do I take the fight or am I just a nobody? Or do I get up, run, get in the gym, train, and then by the end of the training montage, he's got his arms pumping on the library steps, this iconic scene, and he knows he's ready to get into the ring. And for many people, it's they get to that point where it's like, I'm very reluctant to go attack the monsters that I know exist. Because once I do, then I have to get in the ring with that monster and I have to fight it. Now, this is the really interesting part. Once they get there, they realize that they were more qualified and more skilled to attack that monster than they ever thought possible. And most of our business owners, when I talk to them, I completely trust their judgment. Most of the time, they're the ones bringing the answer to the table. They already know what to do. They're just looking for permission to do it. And they didn't know how to do it without dismantling the business, shutting it down, breaking everything, losing clients, losing employees, working 60 hours a week. And that's really where, for us, like in the co-pilot program, we're doing an hour of concentrated work. And we can get through that. And they get to the point where they go, the monster I thought I had to attack is really just a furry, fuzzy little teddy bear. It's not nearly as daunting as I thought it was. Greg, one of our clients, he has a very complex, they're in the freight business, and they have a super complex system that's built on SAP, which if you're listening, SAP is like one of the oldest database-driven softwares on the planet. So it's not like a user-friendly software at all. And he told me right away, I don't see how I could delegate invoicing because it's in our SAP system. And it's really difficult to learn. I don't know how I could teach somebody to do it. 1 week later, he comes back on the call and he goes, you know what? I realized I don't have to do that. And somebody else can figure it out. And it's that, like, it ended up being, guess what? Not a big deal. He's already got someone on his team handling about 10% of the invoices because he isolated the ones that were easiest. And now that we know somebody can do 10%, guess what he knows? They can do all of it.
Add a zero.
Yeah. Now they can, if they can do 10%, they can do all of it. And a week before that, his belief was, there's no way I could delegate this. It's too complex. It's so scary for me to give this up to somebody because invoicing in his business is how they get paid.
You know what I love too? This is a great segue into the last piece of shifting from Chief Everything Officer to Dream Team Mentor and starting your Exit Without Selling journey. Greg was only able to identify that, I bet, because he was also clear on what we call his zone of genius, right? Because when you understand the small handful of activities that you love to do, that you're uniquely gifted to do, and that are profitable for the business, when you understand that, that becomes your new frame. Coming back to the frame, that's the frame. These are the things. These are the only things that I do in the business that depend on me. Everything else I don't do. So it then opens your mind to the possibility of how could we delegate this. So you want to talk about the zone of genius real quick before we land the plane?
Yeah. So the real question is, what would have to not be true for you to be in your zones of genius? Well, you'd have to not
do invoicing
because it's going to eat up all your time. What would have to not be true for you to work 10 hours a week? Which that's for Greg. He doesn't want to be out of the business. It is like his grandkid. He wants to visit it, wants to feed it sugar, and then he wants to send it home to mom and dad. and he doesn't want to be completely out of it, but he wants to see it when he wants to see it. And when he's on vacation, I'm sorry, I'm not available. I can't watch the grandkids, right? And that's a very fair boundary to draw. But to do that while the company grows so that he maintains his income, which he doesn't necessarily need, but it's nice to have when you've done all the work, right? That's kind of the goal at some point, is that you can exit without selling, keep the income while the dream team runs the rest. And when you run through the frame of what has to not be true for that to occur, which it sounds complex, but what would have to stop happening for you to work in your zones of genius? It becomes much more simple. Because then you just go, well, that I can't do that anymore. And they're going to have to step up. And that tech that I love, who's wanting more responsibility and asking me for a raise, they're going to have to become project manager because I can't keep managing projects if I'm going to be focusing on an expansion project or whatever it is. And so let's dig into the kind of the nuts and bolts of love, profit, and uniqueness. Why are those the three categories of zones of genius? Well, if you love to do it, it's easy to do. If you make money every time you do it, it's pretty easy to do. Most business owners are burned out because they're doing things and they're just not making enough money to justify it. Like in insurance, I got to the point where I don't want to write another home policy, or I'm making 200 and something bucks. It sounds so arrogant to say out loud. Most people would making 200 bucks in a day would be like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I'm making it in an hour. But it gets to the point where you go like, I don't want it. Why am I doing this? But if I was paid $2,000, like I potentially could be on a life insurance case or a commercial account, I'll spend a few hours on it to make $2,000, right? Like suddenly it becomes a little easier, a little lighter lift. And that's why profit's so important, aside from the company needing profit. And that's the second part of it is there's certain things that the owner does that are just always going to be highly profitable. There's those big accounts, there's that general contractor, there's that corporate contact with your parent company that just maintaining that will keep the money flowing in for forever. And it takes so little effort for the owner to do it. Why wouldn't they keep doing it? It always makes the company money. And then the unique one, that's really where it starts to get nuanced. Because when it comes to what you can uniquely do, a lot of business owners can justify them being the only one to do it all day and on Sunday. Okay? Reality is this is not just what you think only you can do. These are the items, the tasks that truly only you can do. Typically it starts with expertise, right? Like I'm a professional engineer and it takes so long to become a PE that and it costs a lot of money to go hire somebody who already has their PE designation. I'm going to have to bring an apprentice up, help them go through the 3 or 4 years of study, school, and all that stuff to pass their professional engineering degree before I'm able to delegate signing and sealing drawings if I'm an engineer. I'm the only one who has a builder's license. And the builder has to pull the permit and has to sign off or whatever the story is. I'm the CPA. There's no other certified public accountants. And only CPAs can do this kind of work and deal with the IRS in this way. Perfect. Those are the types of things we're looking at. And it's easy to keep those on their plate because they are the only one to do it. And then we can create a long-term plan of how we can get that off of them. We don't have to replace it today. The other type of unique work that isn't that we don't try to remove from owners, that we keep on them as part of the 3 zones of genius, is the type of work that you simply can't hire someone else to do because you are one of the best in the world at. If you are a public speaker, for instance, and you're going out and you are the expert on the topic and people pay for you to speak, you can't just go hire somebody to replace you. You can have an understudy that costs a tenth as much and then people will still want to hire you. Those are the types of things that you are truly unique. Nobody else can do it. You are in a category of one by yourself, and you're not going to easily hire somebody or delegate that off because like you're the man or you're the woman in that, and nobody can replace you. And that is why we focus on the 3 zones of genius and how we break it out into the love, profit, and unique levers.
I love that you said there's a short-term plan and a long-term plan. I think we can land the plane with this because there is that duality. I always say business is a lot like golf. You have to play the long game and the short game well to win.
Amen.
And so there is this sense in which there's immediate relief the owner can feel when they find those zones of genius and begin to focus on it. And it begins to make them see the opportunity to delegate. And later on in the book, we talk about some fundamental shifts to your revenue model, to your customer journey, that make it less expert dependent in the first place. So if you're listening and you're like, well, great, I'm already doing a lot of those things and it just still takes a ton of my time. Don't worry, you gotta play the short game well. There's some things we can immediately begin to do to make progress, and there's a long-term approach to get you out of being so dependent or so integral to those core functions. So,
in short term, it's just a mindset shift a lot of times. Carl, one of our clients, he just said, I'm already starting to think to myself, this is something I can't do. I can't do this. And that's not hyper specific. It's not overly tactical. He just is thinking differently about things that come his way and determining that it can't be me. There's just no way I can accomplish this Exit 2 vision if I keep doing this.
I love it. I love it. Well, if you're listening to this, by now, to exit without selling, you're going to have to change your identity from Chief Everything Officer to your Dream Team Mentor. And that journey really looks like, what I'd recommend you do is, first of all, get the book and go read chapter 1. Because chapter 1, we break this down in detail. We give you a specific tool. We call it the Daily IV. That's going to help you start to rewire that identity through a simple 5-minute practice every day. It's going to help you crystallize your exit to vision. And it's going to help you identify those 3 or less activities that sit in your zone of genius that only you can do, so you know all the other things that you can't do. So anything else to add?
Yeah, I was going to say the audiobook, Exit Without Selling, audiobook.com. Chapter 1 is a 20-minute chapter.
20 minutes.
So you get all that in the drive to the office, to the next job site. It's really easy to consume. There's no reason not to. And once you read it and you start to understand how it would feel to exit without selling, knowing that you neither have to exit or sell, you'll realize you have everything you need to accomplish your exit to vision, and you'll start taking action immediately.
Love it. Go get the book. We can't wait to see you in the next conversation. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you liked. Let us know what you didn't like.
Leave a review, please.
Be a hater if you want. It's all good. I'll come at you. It'll be great. We'll have a conversation. We can't wait to see you in the next conversation. Y'all see you there.